to Planning Commission for the City of Monterey meeting on Tuesday, January the 25th, 2022. And we are a quorum, and with the administrative staff, we are ready to begin the meeting. Jennifer, you want to call the roll, please?
Yes, I will call the roll call vote, and then I will announce how members of the public can join our meeting to provide public comment when it is time for public comment. So first, for the roll call, we have Chair Freeman.
Here.
Vice Chair Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Brassfield, I believe, is not here. Absent. Commissioner Dawson.
Here.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Here.
Commissioner Latassa.
Here.
Commissioner Milich.
Here.
And that leaves us with a total of 6 commissioners present. For staff, we have Community Development Director Kim Cole, Principal Planner Fernando Roveri, and myself, Recording Secretary Jennifer Cleary. And members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey with a 10-second delay, and Comcast Channel 25 with up to a 90-second delay. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. Since the meeting has begun, you will find the agenda under the Recent tab. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free, then enter the webinar ID. If that first number doesn't work, there are others listed on the meeting agenda, again at isearchmonterey.org. The webinar ID for this meeting is 161-990-8039. Once again, the webinar ID for this meeting is 161-990-8039. If prompted for a participant ID, press pound. Detailed instructions for using Zoom are available at monterey.org/public meetings. To provide comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. The public commenters will be muted until it is their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting, so please stay within that limit. And we did get a couple more attendees, but
Why don't we open the consent agenda and see if somebody wants to discuss a consent item. We have 2 consent items today. The minutes for December the 14th and for January the 11th. Why don't we take them separately, since I think we had different people present for each one of those meetings. Would any member of the committee or the public like to comment on December the 14th minutes?
once again, there is a raise your hand function at the bottom of the screen if you're joined by a Zoom. I see no phone number attendees present.
Okay.
And no hands raised. So I would say it's safe to move on.
All right. Is there any member of the committee that has a comment on December the 14th minutes?
I move to approve as submitted.
Second.
All right. There's been a motion and a second to approve the minutes for December the 14th, 2021. Jennifer, you want to call for the vote?
Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Brassfield is absent. Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Abstain, I was absent.
Thank you. Commissioner Latassa,
Yes.
Commissioner Milich,
Yes.
Thank you. This motion carries with a vote of 5. And the
Okay.
December 14th, 2021 minutes are approved.
All right, let's move on to January the 11th, 2022. Is there any member of the public or the committee who would like to comment on those minutes?
Once again, please use the raise your hand function if you are joined by Zoom, if you would like to comment on the minutes for January 11th, 2022. No hands raised. I think we're safe.
All right, committee comments, if any?
I move to approve as submitted.
I'll second that.
All right, minutes for January.
11,
11.
2022.
11th, 2022. Motion has been made to approve and seconded. Jennifer, you want to call the roll for the vote?
Definitely. Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Brassfield is absent. Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Abstain, I was absent.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Latassa
Yes.
and Commissioner Milich.
Yes.
Great. These minutes also are approved with the vote of 5. Thank you.
Let's move on then to open public comments for items that are not on the agenda. If there's a member of the public who would like to comment on something that is not on today's agenda, now is the time for you to speak up.
Once again, to join the meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Once again, that phone number is 833-568-8864. Then enter the webinar ID, which is 161-990-8039. Once again, 161-990-8039 is this meeting's webinar ID. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or names typed into Zoom. I see one hand raised, and I am asking them to unmute now with the number last 3 digits 204. You should be able to unmute yourself now. Or
Good
press-
evening, good afternoon. Tom Raleigh calling. Just to say a thank you to the 2 commissioners for raising an important issue that really needed to be addressed and has not been addressed. If you look at the agenda for tomorrow's strategic meeting of the Monterey City Council, there is no mention of the specific problem of sea level rise or anything that important. And I think the leadership shown by the chair and Commissioner Latassa, I know you're all concerned about this, and I'd like to compliment the commission as a whole for proceeding and bringing this issue forward. This is a major issue. There's no easy solutions, and it's going to be a big, big bucks item to solve it. So common sense is going to be needed. The other thing I would urge is you need to get some valid information that everyone agrees on sea level rise. Anyway, thank you very much for taking the leadership. It's very much appreciated, and I know I appreciate it. This is an issue the Sanctuary Advisory Council has been struggling with on how to address it, and I'm glad to see that the city's going to do some kind of a working ad hoc committee. I think that, you know, you perhaps should set a time limit on how long you're going to have an ad hoc committee, and also should also invite somebody from NOAA. So anyway, you'll be getting into that issue, but anyway, thank you again.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks for your comment. You can come back when we talk about the issue on the regular agenda. It'll be the second item on the regular agenda.
Coming soon.
So thank you. You see anybody else, Jennifer?
No, that looked like our only commenter as
Okay.
of right now. No other hands are raised.
All right. Well, let's move on then to the regular agenda. And the first item on the regular agenda is consider 595 Munros Avenue, Suite 101, a use permit application, UP 210219, for a massage establishment. Applicant is Todd Gomez. The owner is the City of Monterey. It is the planned PCDES zoning district, commercial general plan, land use designation. We'll start with a staff report. My goodness, these have gotten so professional. These PowerPoints are so beautiful. Did you do this?
This is a template from our communications office.
I think it's a new template.
Yes,
Looking good.
thanks. Thank you, Chair. My name is Fernanda Roveri, Principal Planner for the City of Monterey. And I will present to you the use permit for a massage establishment at 595 Monros Avenue, Suite 101. On the right-hand side is a map of the site, 595 Monros Avenue. It contains a city-owned 2-story mixed-use building with a parking lot. This photo was taken when the parking lot was still being built, but it's now there.
So Fernanda, the presentation isn't forwarding.
Oh,
It just shows the cover slide for some reason. We can see your slide viewer to the left.
Put it on the thing that looks like a cup at the bottom of your PowerPoint.
There
can
we
I
go.
just do this then? Because can you see
Yes,
it
there you
now?
go. We can see it now.
Okay, I'm just gonna not do it on full screen. Okay. So then the site is commercial land use and has PCDES zoning. And a use permit is required for massage establishments in the downtown specific plan area. And here's a photo of the building as it looks now. The proposed use is called Massage Envy at Suite 101. The applicant is proposing to provide neuromuscular and therapeutic massage and ancillary skin care and body care services. The floor plan that was submitted to our building department shows 10 clinic service rooms, a front reception desk area, a employee break area, and restroom. The business would have up to 24 part-time employees. However, only 12 would be there during peak hours. The operating hours would be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. This is a site plan. It shows on hatched the Suite 101. And to the right of it is the other commercial suite that is available right now for lease. And on the left side is the parking lot, and it wraps around the building. This is the floor plan. It's rotated, so you can see here that it's long, but here it's rotated the other way. So the door to the suite is right here. And this would be Monros Avenue. So you would enter and there's a reception area, and here you would enter into a hallway that shows the 10 service rooms. And here in the back is the employee break area and the restroom. So there is no minimum parking standard for commercial uses. However, there is a minimum parking standard for residential uses, and that is 0.5 spaces per residential unit. So the parking lot contains 22 spaces currently. However, 5 of those are reserved for the 10 residential units on site. And the remaining 17 spaces can be shared between Suite 101 and the commercial suite next door. And the applicant communicated that employees would use city parking lots and garages. There are 3 findings that the Planning Commission must consider in order to approve a use permit. And number 1 is that the proposed use is in accord with the objectives of the zoning ordinance and the purposes of the zone. The zone PCD downtown specific plan allows for a full range of commercial uses, including massage establishments, which are permitted with a conditional use permit. And so this use is compatible with the downtown area. The proposed project will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or welfare of persons residing or working in or adjacent to the neighborhood, and will not be detrimental to properties or improvements in the vicinity. So there is an additional massage permit required through the police department. So they will need to comply with that, and they make sure that the massage providers are licensed massage therapists. And also the use would be conducted within an enclosed building, and there are 17 parking spaces to be shared with the 2 commercial spaces. The proposed use will comply with any specific condition as listed in the conditions of approval. And here I listed the special conditions, that the massage business cannot start operations until the appeal period is over, until they receive a business license and the police department permit. The hours of operation shall be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. As they proposed. That the 17 parking spaces shall be shared between the 2 commercial spaces, and that any new signage requires a sign permit through the planning office. And the recommendation is to approve the use permit with the conditions stated in the resolution. I'm available for questions, and I believe the applicant is also here. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernanda. Commission comments and questions, not comments. Are there commissioner questions for Fernanda? Okay, Mike Dawson has his hand up.
Yeah, I have a question. It says that there's no exception for hazardous waste sites. Was this not a gas station before?
Right.
So-
Kim, do you
So
want
it
to-
was a gas station, Mike, and it has been cleaned. The site, I don't know if you remembered, it had been excavated.
Oh,
In
yeah, I remember.
addition,
I remember. Yeah.
and there is a
Yeah.
membrane in the building to meet health department requirements.
Okay, good. And something else. Wasn't there a Massage Envy over by Trader Joe's? And they're gonna just open up a new one after the other one went bust?
They are going to open a new one. I don't know if the other one went bust or what the
I don't
business
either.
decision was.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question, Madam Chair. Thanks, Fernanda. The special condition number 1 has no massages until February 4th, 2022. But obviously they have to get a building permit. They're remodeling this whole space. But we don't have to address that. That's just assumed that a building permit is required for it. It's sort of
That's
like,
right, they are proposing to remodel the interior, so they wouldn't be able to start their business until that's done.
Yeah, okay. So they obviously aren't going to start any massages within the next 10 days if they have to get a building permit. But anyway, that's all.
Other questions? I have a question. What streets in downtown Monterey are massage establishments not allowed?
In downtown?
Yeah.
I believe
Isn't
they
it
are.
Alvarado? Isn't it Alvarado? Because Alvarado is not allowed on Alvarado, right? Because that's a service versus retail. Alvarado is
I
retail.
believe that's accurate. It's the Alvarado Street first floor and the first block of Franklin and Del Monte off of Alvarado Street.
So Moonrise is not considered to be a main street.
So Munris was not included in the prohibited area. I think if I remember correctly, the commission's main concern on when we were formulating the specific plan was that there should be active uses on the first floor facing Alvarado and those two blocks on Del Monte and Franklin Street. We discussed having a broader prohibition, but the land use decision was made to limit it to Alvarado Street was the main objective. I do have to say we're seeing a lot of massage permits. I mean, as you're well aware, it obviously must be financially beneficial. I mean, that's why we see so many coming forward.
Okay. Other questions for Fernando or for Kim? All right. Then why don't we, would the applicant like to make a presentation? Mr. Gomez?
Mr. Gomez was on the line earlier. I do see him with his hand raised, so you should be able to unmute yourself, Mr. Gomez.
Hi, this is Todd Gomes. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sorry for
Oh.
pronouncing your name wrong.
Oh, no, that's fine. Happens all the time. Trust me, it's fine. I didn't have an additional presentation, but I just want to say that this is a business it's a franchise, as somebody pointed out a little bit earlier, that it's a part of the Massage Envy franchise organization. My wife and I have 2 licenses that we are in the process of building out. Monterey is one location, and then one for Santa Cruz County is another location. It's a subscription-based model. We have very high operation standards and a lot of expectations to make up ground for the rather abrupt departure of the last Massage Envy, which the operator shut down about 3 years ago. And so maybe 4 years ago, my wife is correcting me now. So we're very excited about the opportunity to have a business in Monterey. The timing, the build out's going to take us, a few months if we're fortunate. I mean, I don't think we're actually going to be open for operations until quite possibly May or June, and that's if we're able to get everything lined up with the contractors and the permitting process for the build out and the tenant improvements. My wife and I will be very involved in the operations. And, if there's any questions that you have about how we're approaching this or how we're going to be operating the business, please feel free to reach out to myself or Mirka, my wife. Be more than happy to address any questions that you may have.
All right. Anyone have a question for Mr. Gomes? All right. Seeing none, let's open this up for public comment.
Once again, members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via ZoomGov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Once again, that phone number is 833-568-8864. Then enter the webinar ID. For this meeting, that number is 161-990-8039. Once again, that webinar ID is 161-990-8039. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or to provide public comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. I currently see no hands raised, but I can let you know if somebody does raise their hand.
Thank you, Jennifer. Committee comments?
My only comment is my wife was the subscription to the other massage envy, and she really enjoyed going there. It's like a once a month massage, and she was very disappointed when they left. So I know it's a good company. So I support the motion. I mean, I support the project.
Okay. Yes, Dan.
Yeah, I support the project as well, but I did bring up the last time one of these came through is like, who's keeping track of how many massage parlors there are in the city, and is there a quota, or is anybody being mindful of the number of massage parlors, or is that something we should even be concerned about? Maybe Kim, you could answer that.
So we're not, I mean, we can obtain that information, but we're not currently tracking that, but we can pull up the permits and then report back to the commission on an agenda item. And there is no quota. They're allowed broadly in the city in most zoning districts and areas. So happy to bring that back to you as a report if you'd like to have that, a future agenda item.
Yeah.
I don't think that's necessary. I just offhand wanted to know. I guess it's really just the market, what the market will bear in terms of the number of these things. Just something that I want to keep my eye on.
You know, the other thing to keep your eye on is it isn't unusual to have this kind of service business coming into Monterey off of the freeway or off of Highway 1. And yet this is the entrance to the city. This business isn't really any different, in my opinion, than the cosmetic dentistry that is a little further up toward the Chevron station, or the spa at the Casa Munras, or some of the exercise places next to the Mercedes dealership. But if Monterey were to become a more commercial city, we might want to consider rezoning this primary street going into Monterey for not so many of these one-on-one personal service businesses. So just a thought. If there are no other comments, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the use permit application UP 21-0219 for massage establishment at 595 Munras Avenue, Suite 101, pursuant to the terms and conditions and findings in the staff report and as presented at the meeting.
And is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's been a motion to approve with a second for the application for the use permit at 595 Munras Avenue, Suite 101. Any comment on the motion? Okay, Jennifer, you want to call for the vote?
Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Reed,
Yes.
Commissioner Brassfield is still absent. Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Fletcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Latassa,
Yes.
and Commissioner Milich.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion carries with a vote of 6, and the action is appealable with forms through the planning office within the next 10 days.
All right, congratulations. Your application has been approved. Let's move on to our final item on the regular agenda, and that is to consider the letter to the city manager about sea level threat to the city coastline. And if there is a presentation from staff? Let's do that now.
So we don't have a presentation. The main purpose of this item is Commissioner Latassa mentioned at our last meeting this letter. And so this is an opportunity for the commission to review the letter, ask questions of Commissioners Latassa and Freeman. And I believe we have a meeting set up with the city manager. I think it's this week. It may even be tomorrow on to discuss your letter. It's coming up if it's not tomorrow. So I'll turn it over to Commissioners Freeman and Latassa if you want to talk about your letter. And if anyone has questions, you're welcome to ask.
Is our meeting tomorrow, Terry?
I thought it was next Monday, the 31st.
Oh, good. I was thinking,
Oh, good.
Yeah, I have it next Monday at 11 a.m.
okay. I would like to hear comments from the committee on the letter and on the issue, because the letter presents an informal agenda for this meeting with the city manager. And one of the specific things that I think will come up is who should be on the subcommittee? Who should be on it besides 2 planning commissioners and a city manager? And I would really be interested in, fleshing out a recommendation to the city manager as to who should be on it besides us. Steve?
I think we definitely need funding. And if there's going to be funding for such a large project, it's going to need federal funds. So I think it's very important that we have somebody from the federal government. I was thinking Congressman Panetta's office, maybe someone high up in his chief of staff or else should be on the committee.
You think that maybe we could get somebody from the sanctuary to sit in, because I've been on that committee and they have a wealth of talent that resides in the sanctuary.
Okay.
I would also say, this doesn't just affect Monterey.
Sure.
But what about the Bay Area AMBAG? Somebody should be there from that outfit also, because there are other cities. It's not just us. We're not going to accomplish anything by ourselves. So I think we need to cast a pretty wide net here, a local net as well as the AMBAG. So there should be other members of other cities also in the Monterey Bay.
One of the things that Nancy Runyon brought up in her letter was the fact that, at least if I could summarize, that her principal issue is using Highway 1 as sort of the line of demarcation, which, Steve, would bring people from Marina and Seaside and maybe even as far north as Watsonville into the picture. Is that where you were going with this? We'd have city representatives?
Well, the thing is, if you get too wide a net, to accomplish nothing. And
Okay.
if we have too small a one, we're going to accomplish nothing either. So it's going to be an experimental process. I think everybody who's on the bay, who's affected in the Monterey Bay, should be involved. Now, we're talking, are we talking also Santa Cruz? Do we want to go Davenport, which really isn't on the bay, but they're affected by the sea rise also. I mean, where do we go from here? We need to start somewhere. So maybe a germ would be what it is, where we should start with a view towards expanding maybe later when we get going. I don't know.
A member of the Coastal Commission?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So Sandy and I's and my idea for this thing, this idea of a subcommittee is just an idea. The whole concept is that, if we're the planning commission, we better be planning for this one, because this is really going to impact land use and zoning and everything else so profoundly. So the idea of the subcommittee is just a start. You know, maybe Hans will say have some better idea, but the idea was it would mainly allow the city council to monitor on a biannual or a twice a year basis progress. You know, do we have the surveying done? First thing we need to do is start identifying the problem. And there's all that very basic sort of stuff the city needs to do. It's definitely a regional issue, but just as an example, the Lighthouse Tunnel and the Del Monte Avenue in front of the Lake El Estero are regional issues, but they are very specifically city of Monterey issues that are just going to be so huge. I mean, going all the way up to Fremont, and it's a little bit mind-boggling, especially that tunnel. And the sooner we can get going on it and just start identifying the problems. I'm sure you all were aware of that report last year that Fernanda was involved in. Maybe we can ask her to speak a little bit, because that report was quite impressive, the Kimley Horn report about the transportation issues. And I guess it won some award. What we're really talking about here is resilient design. And our whole coastline is going to need it. They talk about fight or flight. Some places we probably will be eventually building walls. Other places we might not be, but all those questions are going to be ironed out at some point in the future. And the sooner we can start the basic stuff as the preliminary work before any real engineering starts, just organizing our thoughts and the surveying and the problem definition is going to be, I think, helpful. Fernanda, can you talk a little bit about that report from last year, how it happened, and if there are any other reports that you're working on?
So that report came out of a Caltrans grant to study the effects of sea level rise on our transportation networks. So it was very transportation focused. And so we looked at Highway 1, Del Monte Avenue, Lighthouse Tunnel, and Cannery Row as our major transportation thoroughfares. And we saw that Del Monte Avenue between, I think it was Sloat Avenue and the tunnel, that would be the most impacted area first. And we need to start thinking about that now, because there's going to be quite a lot of permitting needed to do something about it. And so the first scenario was by the year 2030 that we would start seeing some permanent flooding of Del Monte Avenue in front of Lake El Estero. And so the idea was to find those low points and come up with some temporary measures first to delay the flooding, but in the meantime also come up with a long-term strategy for our city. And that was the retreat versus protect scenarios. The protect was what Kimley Horn showed as a concept is build a seawall on the rec trail, which has had pros and cons, or elevate Del Monte Avenue onto a sort of bridge that goes across the city. The retreat scenario was basically to just let the water flood our downtown and Lake El Estero area and retreat back to Fremont Street and use that as our thoroughfare along with Highway 1. But obviously make Fremont a more high occupancy vehicle street. So have it be a transit, how is it called? BRT, bus rapid transit route. And so it was a lot to think about, I think, for the public. So I think we need to take baby steps, but we need to start soon. So I think like we need to come up with a strategy that we all agree on. At least a temporary strategy in the meantime.
Are there any other similar Caltrans or any other, grants that are in the works right now?
There was I think it's gonna be yearly, a FEMA grant. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency at the federal level. They're called the BRIC, Building Resilient Infrastructure Communities Grant. And that comes out yearly. And the city did try for an application through that. It was unsuccessful. And then there was this other grant called by the California Office of Emergency Services. So it was a state grant that also, it was focused on mostly infrastructure solutions, but natural solutions, so nature-based solutions. So I think I'm seeing more and more in this state that in California that nature-based solutions are becoming more popular. And so the California Office of Emergency Services was encouraging us to come up with a nature-based solution for Monterey Bay.
Can
You mean
describe-
just let the ocean just wash over us?
Yeah, I think that's a nature-based solution.
They didn't specify, but that would be the next step, to have or one of the next steps, to have an engineering study that could tell us if that's a possibility.
Can you talk about the award for the Kinley Horn report?
Talk about what?
Well, the award that was granted, who gave that
Oh.
award? What was that about?
The Association of Environmental Professionals gave the city of Monterey and the consultants an award for I believe it was called the Resiliency Award for resilience document. So we won that award in California.
Yeah, so I do want to point out that award, and Fernanda was the lead on the project, was for the entire state of California. So that was quite an accomplishment.
I'd say.
I know like the Dutch are famous for their resiliency design. I've heard that the state of New Jersey has been quite progressive, believe it or not, in their attempts on this. So we're sort of, I think everybody's just realizing, wow, the water's going to raise. We're going to have to do something. So,
Well, New Jersey got clobbered by Superstorm Sandy. And my aunt had a house on that beach that just went away. And so that was a real big eye opener. It hadn't happened that way for 100 years.
And Sheriff Freeman, I do see somebody has their hand raised. So at the appropriate time, if you want to open up public comment, that would be appropriate.
All right. Is there anybody else on the committee who wants to say something right now before we open up public comment? All right, Jennifer, why don't you take the lead and unmute these people? This person.
And just for if there's any viewers at home who want to participate, I'll announce one more time. Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov, secure service that connects to live with no lag time. To join the meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, toll free. Once again, that phone number is 833-568-8864. The webinar ID for this meeting is 161-990-8039. Once again, the webinar ID for this meeting is 161-990-8039. To provide public comment once you are in Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen, or to provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. And just a reminder, there is a 3-minute timer. Let me just pull that up on my screen. And the first commenter with their hand raised is, I believe it's the same caller we had previously. So with the last phone number digits 204, you should have permission to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Is that Rowley?
Yes. Good afternoon, Tom Raleigh, resident of Fisherman's Flats, and I'm out of the flood zone, so I think I can safely comment on this. But it is an issue of strong interest, as I am an alternate rep for business and industry on the Sanctuary Advisory Council, and they do have a lot of people that are very well qualified in looking at this issue. This is one of the issues that is supposed to be discussed this year as one of the many, many issues. The thing is, I would like to suggest to you, after I submitted, and I assume you've seen the letter I submitted, and I apologize, I didn't have the emails late at night, the correct address for Kim and Sandy. But anyway, I hope you got it. I got a confirmation that you did receive it. But anyway, an ad hoc committee is more what I would like to suggest is perhaps maybe 2 years, and you need to meet more than every half a year. I would think perhaps every other month or once a quarter to review what is happening. And a large part of this, I was led to believe after the study last year that there was going to be money tried to obtain on the soon, like last year, to for follow-up studies. There needs to be technical people like Kimley Horn or other people. And we mentioned there's lots of expertise in the world. You know, Holland is basically below sea level, but yet they managed to survive for centuries. So the thing is, there's a lot of expertise, not that much in the U.S., but we should be able to access it. And I would like to encourage it to meet more frequently to get the ball rolling. And that would be what this committee needs to do. A smaller committee is more likely to get the ball rolling. And yes, federal funding will be needed. The other thing that the Planning Commission, you may not be aware of, I'm sure Kim is, that the TAMC has looked at Highway 1 in North County around the power plants, the Moss Landing area, that's going to be an expensive project. TAMC has looked at it and received detailed presentations on alternatives. So this is not just peculiar to Monterey. There's going to be a lot of places, Santa Cruz area, the Bay Area. So we're not going to be alone on this, on trying to get money for studying this intently to come up with real options. As far as giving away the downtown and letting it flood out, I can't see any elected city council being willing to let the downtown flood out. So anyway, that's just my personal opinion, but I wish you well. I hope they move forward. I hope you have more than every half a year and get the ball rolling on looking at real common sense solutions, and they're going to be expensive. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Are we back?
We're back.
Okay. Jennifer, bring us back to Hollywood Squares, please. There we go.
Or thank you for your comments, Mr. Raleigh. I do not see any more hands raised. So that may have been our only comment for this topic.
One of the things that occurs to me is that the initial meetings would be discovery, what are other cities doing? What are the other affected areas? What monies are available through what resources? There's just so much that needs to be learned about what can be done and what is already being done by others. Dan, Fletcher, Steve,
Yeah, I agree with
Hanson?
you. I think, the initial meetings that you plan on having should be about defining what the problem is and what are the resources available to put towards it, and then get into more detail. And it's like, what should this committee makeup look like? There's a lot to do just to put something together to get going on it. And I think on the frequency of meetings, it's probably, I mean, this is such a big, serious problem. More than once a quarter would be appropriate, maybe once a month. Maybe that's part of your discovery as well, like what's appropriate frequency for meetings.
I hear you. Hanson, do you have anything?
I don't have any comments right at this point in time. I mean, it's a significant issue, but I'm just trying to listen at this point.
Okay. Mike.
This really isn't our problem. It's California's problem. It's the U.S. problem. It's the world's problem. We need to think about how much we can spend, because it's not going to it'd break Monterey just to put up a wall around us. I think that the idea is to get the feds involved first. I mean, someone from the congressman's office ought to be in that first meeting, and that person should have enough knowledge of what's going on in DC to say, okay, we can get some grants to do this, to do the study, and the study, that should be an easy thing. But the idea that we're going to fund this internally is not going to work. It's got to be Fed money.
Well, that's why my our letter suggested that we aren't looking at construction.
No.
We're just looking at basic, like Dan said, just defining the problems and starting to look at families of solutions for all these different parts of our coastline and the inland areas.
Also bringing the issue beyond the level of denial. If you go online and you ask for artwork relative to sea level rise, there are so many ridiculous cartoons of denial where the man is in the backyard with his barbecue and, oh, honey, it went up an inch, and he's not even by the ocean. So the humorous aspect of denial is one thing. And so making it a bona fide issue, bringing it to the forefront as something that people should get involved in, that would be another thing we could do by creating such a committee.
Get attention. That's the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Kim, do you have any comment to make? I see you being so thoughtful there.
Just a couple thoughts. I think the mid-year budget presentation to the city council will include some local funding to start to look at this issue. So I think your letter has had an impact on the city manager's office, and I think they were thinking about it anyways. So I think there's a lot of work we have done. We've done the vulnerability study for the coastal plan, and we have a lot of, I'd say, basic identification of resources that are going to be threatened. But we really need to involve our engineering division at this point and determine if it is a city council priority to address. So I don't think we have a solution yet by any means.
No.
I think we have a series of studies that have been completed, and I know we're probably interested in looking at a lot more alternatives before we figure out which way we're going.
I have a question, Kim. So this vulnerability study for the coastal plan, is that something that we can see online?
It is, and in fact, Fernanda did a good job. She combined all the various studies we've done on our Have Your Say website. So we'll send you out the link to that. So that includes, there's some really good maps at the back of the coastal plan vulnerability study, and it shows you how many storm drains are affected, how many water meters are affected, how many, what's the length of trail system that's affected, you know, what parts of our recreation trail are going to be flooded, which roadways. So it looks at all infrastructure types. So that's one thing that I think is very interesting to look at. We also received a grant and prepared a beach nourishment study and an environmental document on that. It's probably almost 700 pages, evaluating if beach nourishment is a possible solution for the Del Monte Beach area. And then we have the study that you're familiar with that Fernanda worked on, the transportation study. So I think we have pieces, every grant that's been available, we've applied for. So the beach nourishment study was funded through a grant. The Caltrans grant funded the transportation study. The LCP work was funded from the California Coastal Commission. So we have, I'd say we have the beginnings of to define the problem, and at least, I mean, beach nourishment has been fairly well defined now as a possible alternative.
Thank you. Steve?
Regarding grants and money, thank you very much, Michael, for agreeing with me about bringing the feds in. But we have, what is it, 200 billion or some surplus this year in California. We definitely have a huge surplus, and the legislature is trying to find ways to spend it rather than stockpile it. And it might be beneficial to have somebody from a local state senator and local assembly person's office also there, so that they can help us and Kim probably is already onto this, but help our staff apply for grants to fund a study. Okay, not to fund the project itself, but at this point, a study.
Sure. Just a knowledge resource that would flow through all that information to the staff. Yeah. Any other comment?
I have one last one, kind of like a passing comment, something I think about. We've had several projects come before us in this area along Del Monte. And I always thought in the back of my mind, is like, we're giving permission for something to be built, that it's in its life cycle, it will be facing the difficulties of sea rise. And we're not including a disclaimer to our permission to build something that, hey, you know, you're going to be facing this. And it seems a little bit irresponsible to me, because our decisions now are right on top of the change that we're going to be experiencing.
Good point. Especially that area between the second wharf and the naval property, where they have those auto repair and businesses that are on the flat land. Yeah.
Between Figueroa and Sloat there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
I will share with you, and you know, it's not just sea level rise, it's also our very high fire hazard zones, and it's the airport hazard zones. And so one of the things we're going to be looking at, we have to do it with our housing element update anyways, is to revise our safety element of our general plan. So that is an upcoming work item starting in probably July of 2022.
Ooh.
Good. Good. All right, then, I think we have enough information to carry us, Terry, to the managers meeting, right?
Yep.
And we'll make some notes about suggestions from both Nancy Runyon and Tom Rowley and Fernanda's report and today's discussion. I think we can use that as part of the meeting points when we get there.
And,
Right.
you know, one last comment is that I know Kim and the city attorney are all over this, is that the private property impacts of this are so, intense that this Brown Act stuff, and being transparent and always doing things and agendas and public hearings is super important. So we'll be, meticulous about all the transparency with that.
Sure enough. With that, I think we're done, except for a planning office update.
I have nothing to add to my written update.
Okay. All right. Is there any other further comment from the commission?
Fill out your Form 700.
Ooh,
Been done.
thank you. Thank you for the reminder. All right, with that, I believe the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.